All right, hello everybody. I'm your host, Kainisa Martin with the Get Understanding podcast. And just as was stated in the episode, The Builders, I did say that I was going to make a video and put it on YouTube, just disclosing some of the resources that I use for the podcast, some of the equipment that I use, and what I had to do to establish the Get Understanding podcast as an LLC. So, I do have my tablet ready with some of the information that I'll be sharing today. So, first I'm going to get into the business aspect. Now, contrary to popular belief, there wasn't a lot that I had to do to establish my podcast as a business. So one thing that you want to do first is kind of think about what you actually, or what do you want the structure of your business to be. For me, having it established as an LLC made the most sense to me. I'm the only person working with the podcast. Excuse me. I do the editing, I do the graphic design, I do the recording, and so forth. So I'm just me, one employee, and also I had in my mind, it's a podcast. So I know that I'm going to have individuals on the podcast. So one thing as well, because with LLCs, basically your business is set up as a completely separate entity from yourself. So your finances are separate from your business's finances. So that's something you definitely want to keep in mind when you're doing a podcast, especially if you're going to have individuals on your show in person. COVID's going around, and if they decide to make a new strain of COVID, you don't want a situation to come up where you have a guest on your show and then maybe a month or so later they contract COVID and they try to tie it back to your show and try to sue you. So if that ever does happen, if they do try to sue you, they wouldn't be suing Kainisa Martin as an individual. They would be suing the business, which would be completely separate from your money. So that would make the most sense for me for the podcast. But before you register your business, so for me, my business is registered in the state of Georgia. So one thing you want to do, you want to have two names in mind for your business. And I say that because once you go on your state's website to establish or register your business, it's going to ask you for the business name. Then it's also going to ask you for a second business name. And that's in the event that the name that you selected as the first option isn't available. So you want to have two options. So get that ready and on hand. So for the state of Georgia, registration is $100, and I didn't pay for any expedited processing, so that's why it was just $100 flat. So I got the business registered in the state of Georgia. It took maybe 2 weeks. But they email you once the processing is finished, and they send you a certificate in the mail, and it'll have the date that it was established. So Get Understanding LLC was officially established on January the 18th of 2023. And then from there, you want to get an EIN number. So your EIN number for your business is like your business's social security number, thus making it it's a whole separate entity. Now your EIN number is free, so you don't have to pay for that. I believe you go on irs.gov to obtain an EIN number. Again, it is free. And then, so then the whole point of having an EIN number is so when you're setting up a business account, you need an EIN number. You cannot gain a business checking account without an EIN number. So that's one of the main purposes for your EIN number. And then if you ever in the future want to, get a business credit card or apply for grants, you'll need a DUNS number. So I believe you can go on Dun & Bradstreet and get a DUNS number there as well. So with the DUNS number, you establish, you're able to establish credit for your business. So I believe with credit cards, one good thing that I got a tip about, and I'll disclose when I get to my resources, how the information was obtained. But one thing you want to do is, let's just say if you have a personal credit card with Capital One, it'll be good that if you're going to obtain, after you get your DUNS number, if you're going to want a business credit card, that you get a business credit card with a company whom you already have a relationship with through a personal credit card. So if you have a personal credit card with Capital One, they will be the ones you want to go to for a business credit card because you guys already have an established relationship. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you want a business credit card. But again, you'll need a DUNS number to get a credit card and to apply for any grants. Now on my list, I do have grants. That's one thing that I'm looking into because personally, I don't want to get any grant that I have to pay back. So for grants where, they're giving you money, but they're obviously going to want, the funds to be returned, they're going to want to look at the business to be sure that you can actually pay it back. So that means that they're going to look to see if you have any income. So I doubt that you'll get approved for a grant if your business has no income at all. If your business has been running for a while, you have a steady income, and they can look at that to say, okay, we can give you this grant because you do have income to where you can pay us back, then by all means go for it. But those are the things that I had to do to establish my business as an LLC. So again, it really wasn't a lot. I just had to get it registered. That was $100 for the state of Georgia. I had to get an EIN number. That was free. I had to get I didn't have to get, but I decided to get a DUNS number because eventually I do want to get a business credit card, so that way all of my expenses are coming from a separate accounts. And another thing you want to get, because it's obvious that if you're going to set up a business that you're going to need a domain name. So for your website, for your business. So for me, I use FonsecaOps.com. I went through them to purchase a domain name. Now with domain names, the price fluctuates based off of like if you're using a .com, a .org, a .net. So for me, my domain name is GetUnderstandingPodcast.com. .com is popular, but being that the name in general, the Get Understanding Podcast, it wasn't as expensive as other domain names with the .com behind it. So I do use FonsecaOps.com. I did use them to purchase my domain name, and I believe I purchased it for 2 years. And then you have the option to put protection with it, so that way no one can try to steal it or anything like that. So that's also a resource that I use as well. So if I remember, I'll also disclose them again once I get to the resource portion. So besides, the registration with the state, depending on where your business is, your EIN number, your DUNS number, your domain name, those are the 4 things you definitely want to make sure that you get for your business starting off. Now, as far as resources, a lot of the resources that I'm going to disclose is not limited to just a podcast, but it's just the resources that I use. Now again, being that I just left off with FonsecaOps.com, I'll start with them. So it's FonsecaOps.com. I use them to purchase my domain name. For your business, you do need a domain name. You can use certain platforms that have free domains, but it has their website behind your name and it makes your web address longer. You don't want to use that because it looks unprofessional, and you want to have a web address that you can say to people. Like Google.com, you can say that to a person. It's not Google.com.this /this /that, because no one's going to remember that. You're not going to remember that. So, I mean, if you want to have a website, you want to go with someone where you're actually purchasing a domain name that isn't free. So again, I use FonsecaOps.com to purchase my domain name. I can't really remember what I paid for the 2 years. Because again, it does depend on what your actual domain name is, and if you're using a .com, a .net, a .org, or the other options. So my price isn't going to be your price, so that would be something that you would have to look into for yourself. But I use them for my domain name. They also have options for website building, so you can just go on their website to take a look at the services that they provide. Another resource that I use is first I was using Canva.com for when I had a web page or a landing page for my podcast. Now, the difference between a landing page and a website is a landing page is one page, regardless of how long it is, regardless of how much information is on your web page. It's one page with just a continual scroll. You can have multiple tabs at the top, but it's just a continual scroll. That's a landing page. There's not much functionality there. But with the website, obviously you have tabs as well, and it takes you to separate pages that have different functionalities that you can have on there. You can have forms and so on and so forth. So originally I was using Canva.com. And again, I was using them for my landing page. There's, multiple ways that you can customize your landing page. It's great. I still have a Canva Pro account because you could design other things on the website. It's not just limited to a landing page. But for a Canva Pro account, it is $12.99 a month, which you get. You can't beat it, because once you use Canva, you can create letterheads, logos. Did I create a logo on there? My first logo I did create on Canva. You can create your favicon on Canva, which is the image that populates with your web address, which is good because you don't want like the Safari sign coming up with your web address. You want it to be as identifiable as an entity as possible. So you want to get a favicon. There also is the capability of creating videos, creating ads for social media. So definitely say use that. I still use it. But for my actual website that I have for GetUnderstandingPodcast.com, I use Wix.com. Now with Wix, the premium account that I'm using, it is $38 a month. With the website Wix.com, again, I customized my own website. I did use a template, I believe. You can either use a template or start from scratch with everything. And with the $38 a month, it does give you the capability of creating forms on your website. So I do have a guest request form on my website that was made through Canva. It's a standalone form, meaning that when someone clicks the button to request to be a guest, they'll be taken to the form. They'll fill out the form, and I'll get an email once the form is completed. Again, so it does have the capability of customization. It does have automation on there. And one thing that I do also like, I have an online store with my Wix.com account. So Wix.com and Printful, they have partnered together. So my actual online store is with Printful, but on my Wix account, I see my Printful information. So with Printful, they already have the products, and basically you just put your logo on there or any design that you're using. So I use Canva for all my designs, and then I upload it to Printful for my actual products that I'm going to sell. And if you would like, you can just comment and let me know if you want me to give a little bit more information on Printful and how they work. But for the sake of this video, I won't get into it too much. Another resource that I do use is Riverside FM. Now, Riverside FM is what I use to record my podcasts. Now with Riverside FM, you can do both audio and video, or just audio, or just audio. So with them, they do have a free option, but with the free option, you only get to record 2 hours of audio a month. And depending on how frequent your podcast is, that may or may not be enough. But for me, it turned out that it's not enough because I record every Tuesday. So I'm trying to, cut down on my recording time, so that way I don't have to come out as much money on the back end. But so I use Riverside FM as my recording platform that the initial recording comes on. But for my hosting platform for my podcast is Libsyn. Now the hosting platform basically is once you record your podcast, it takes your podcast and it uploads it to all the podcasting platforms. So once I get done recording it on Riverside FM, I use a platform called Audacity to actually record my audio. And then once I'm done, and again, the Audacity that I use the free version. So once I record my initial podcast on Riverside FM, I then transition it to Audacity to make any type of adjustments or editing that I may need to do. And then from there, I take it to Libsyn, the hosting platform. And so right now, the platforms that Libsyn sends my podcast out to is Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, and there's a couple of other podcast platforms that I've never heard of really, but I still send it there too. I mean, someone may be using it. So that's what the hosting platform does. Once you just basically put your podcast or your audio on your hosting platform, and then they send it out to all the podcast platforms, so that way you're not sending it individually. So those are the resources as far as like the podcast itself that I use. Now, as far as like the business aspect resources that I use, I did just recently join an organization called Christian Business Women's Network, and I believe their website is cbwn.net, but I'll put the actual link in the description box. So what they do is basically a network of women that are in different industries. All of them, all of it isn't just content. Some of them are electricians, some of them are brokers, some of them are in the transportation industry, some of them are authors, some of them are in the tech field. So there's a plethora, of resources just in that one organization. So I did reach out to two of the women that are associated with the organization. One by the name of Mallory Johnson. She does own a business called Optimal Service Solutions. And so what she assisted me with is with my website. She took a look at my website, and then she went through it and said, okay, this is what can be done. She's the one that told me, you need a favicon, because when you send me your link, it's just like the default, the Safari compass thing. Like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So I called her, and then the other woman I work with, Tanisha Prelo, she's an author. She works in the IT field. I call those two like my fine-tooth combs. Whenever I need something, whenever I need someone to take a look at something and give me an honest, opinion about what can be done or what can be improved on, I go to those two. So I didn't want to touch on too, because they did have a meetup on the 18th that I went to, and they gave us these membership packages. So really quick, they have 2 packages so far, just for during their promotion. So they have a $10 student package, and they have a professional package for $25. So for the $10 student package, and you have to be a student, don't say, hey, I'm a student, and you're not a student. So the $10 student package, it comes with monthly prayer calls, quarterly lunch and learns, monthly meet and greet, either virtual or in person. So like again, I just went to the one on the 18th. I got to meet some of the ladies. Everyone introduced themselves, and it was great. It wasn't like how it is with most people there. They don't really want to share any of their expertise. It wasn't like that at all. It was very eye-opening. It was great, to say the least. And then you have the ability to create a membership profile for peer connections and networking. So that's how you'll find a lot of your resources, because they do have membership profiles. So you can see what industry people are in to see, okay, who can actually assist me with whatever I'm doing. And that's not even having to be a podcaster like me. And then it said that you can also exchange expertise and resources in their Facebook group. And their Facebook group is private, so, you can't just hop in there and just do whatever. And then so the 25 professional membership, so it has everything that the student membership has, but the other extra thing is the business insight. So with the business insights, you get specific information about the specific industry that you're in. A lot of the meet and greets, you get to talk to individuals and, get a feel of, what their industry is and what they do. But the business insights are specifically for your business. It's getting down to the nitty-gritty of what actually needs to be done for your business. And obviously you're going to speak to individuals that know what they're talking about, because they're doing the same thing that you want to do. So that's great. It's the business package. But like I said, if you go to their website, they have all the information there as well. Their next meet and greet, I believe, is April the 22nd. So those are the resources that I use for the business, but now for the equipment. So for the equipment, and this is the equipment list for beginners, just starting off, because you don't want to immediately jump into spending all this money when you don't even know if you're going to stick with it, when you don't even know really what you're doing as far as the equipment goes. So the first thing is obviously, well, first I'm going to get with the big stuff first. One thing I will say, a laptop. You need a laptop. Now, originally I had a laptop. I had my school laptop. It was a small Chromebook laptop. It was about the size of this. What's the size of this? Yeah, I think it was the size of this this tablet. So it may look big on camera, but in person, this tablet is not big. It's not big enough. So I bought a new laptop because, again, the Chromebook, it wasn't big, and I didn't want to use my laptop for school and for my business. So I went with the Acer laptop, and you want to get a laptop that has a lot of storage, and a laptop that has the capability of having multiple tabs open without slowing down whatever you're doing. So you don't want to cut corners with a laptop, because your laptop is like the heart of your podcast. Everything that you're doing is really taking place on your laptop. You're editing, any of your storage, what you're saving as far as your information, as far as any videos, any audio, all of that's going to be on your laptop. So you don't want to cut corners with your laptop. For the Acer laptop that I purchased, I did purchase it at a Walmart. And I actually went up to the Walmart because, being that I was just starting off with the podcast, I wanted to talk to someone and ask them, okay, hey, I'm starting a podcast. What will be the best laptop for it? And again, I was pointing to the Acer laptop, and I paid a little bit over $500 for that laptop, because that's an investment where you don't have to make another purchase. You don't want some things, if it's cheap enough, you can purchase. I'm not gonna say if it's cheap enough, but some equipment you can kind of penny pinch on until you come to a level where, okay, you're comfortable with the equipment in general. So now you can move forward with more expensive equipment. But with something like a laptop, you don't want to cut corners on, because you will have to buy another laptop, especially if it doesn't have enough memory. Because you don't want to have to record episodes, and you don't want to have to create things with your podcast and then have to go back and delete it just to save something else. That's a big hindrance. So your laptop, that's something you don't want to cut corners on. The second thing that, as far as equipment that I use, is, right now, for video purposes, for when I do videos, I'm using my cell phone. I have an iPhone. As expensive as iPhones are, I'm gonna get all the milk out of it. I'm gonna squeeze all the juice out of this lemon. But I am looking to purchase an actual camera, because I do want to get to a point where all of my podcast episodes, or majority of my podcast episodes, are gonna be video and audio. But until then, I'm using my cell phone. So, but a camera is something also you don't want to cut corners on and have to buy again. Because if you buy one camera for $200 or $300, but it's not good quality, you end up having to buy another camera. In all actuality, you just bought a camera plus that $200 or $300 you spent on the one you're replacing. So it's better to hold off on purchasing some things that you can afford the quality that you need and use something like a cell phone, than to purchase something cheap and the quality still not be there and have to buy, another piece of equipment that does the same thing. The next thing, besides, whatever you're going to record on as far as your video and your laptop, I spoke about the software that I use to actually record, which is Riverside FM. Again, they do have a free version, but you only get to record 2 hours of audio. The version that I currently have is for $19 a month, and you get to record 5 hours a month. My episodes right now are only 30 minutes a piece every Tuesday. Besides, whenever I'm switching between another series, I break a week. And then, so obviously you're gonna need a mic. The mics that I use are Shure mics, Shure. Now, right now, looks like the Shure, the Shure M57 mics. I'll have to put those in the description box if I can find it, the exact description of the mics that I use. But they are Shure mics. Right now I have one mic and one mic stand. I just purchased on musicianfriend.com 3 more mics. They're still Shure mics, and 3 stands. So I just purchased Musician Friend 3 mics, 3 mic stands, and the total came up to, I believe it was on sale, was $119, but with tax, I think it came up to like $142 with tax. Now I did look at the reviews, because when it comes to equipment, you want to read the reviews, especially like if you're not getting it brand new from like Guitar Center, where you know it's going to be good quality. Now for Musician Friend, this will be my first time ordering something from them and getting it, because I ordered something before, but it was back ordered, so I canceled it. Because with Shure mics, a lot of times Shure mics will be back ordered because they're popular podcasting mics and they're reasonably priced. So this will be my first time actually trying out anything from them. They are Shure mics, like the first one that I have, so I'm going to have 4 mics and 4 mic stands. The only thing that I saw with this review was it said the mics were fine, the mics were good. It said that the mic stands weren't really good, which is fine by me, because push come to shove, I can either buy my own mic stands, which I'm probably not, or I can just have the guests hold the mic. But I may end up getting mic stands later on down the road. The next thing as far as equipment is the interface. And your interface is what your mics plug into, and the interface plugs into your laptop. So the mics plug into your interface, and your interface plugs into your laptop. I was using the Focus Scarlett, or the Scarlett Focus, however you say it. I was using that first, and they have a 2 mic interface. I believe they also have an 8 mic interface and maybe a 16 mic interface. Now the 2 mic interface is $198 plus some change, or plus tax. And I would suggest that first starting off, because if you're gonna have one guest, obviously you're gonna need an interface with all those mic inputs. But if you're just going head first into the podcast industry, and you're gonna have 3 or 4 people at a time, you definitely want to get an interface that has more mic inputs to accommodate you and your guests. So you're gonna need your laptop, something, if you're doing video, either a good quality phone that can record your video, or an actual camera. You'll need, obviously, a software that's going to record your initial podcast. You'll also need, I don't know if I said it already, but your mics, mic stands if you don't want to hold your mics. You need the interface. And the other thing that I do suggest is, like for me right now, I'm building a studio in my apartment. So obviously right now you hear like some cars or whatever in my background. Oh, one other thing too, you want to get headphones. If you, like me, it's just me doing the podcast. So I'll be doing I'll be doing editing, I'll be doing the recording, and obviously I'm the host. So I'll be needing headphones for myself and my guests, so that way I can hear what the audience will hear. If there's any feedback, I can make any adjustments. So being that, like I said, I'm going to be building my podcast studio in my apartment, and I have 4 windows in this room. I want to get like sound, I don't know what it's called, but like sound diffusers for the walls. So I'll have to get those as well. But that's some equipment as well. That only depends on if you're in an area that's kind of noisy, or if you can't pick certain times of the day to record where it's not as noisy. Then you definitely want to get something for your walls to cut down on that any echo, any noise from outside. So that's the equipment that you'll need. Now, so I'm going to put majority of what I said in the description box, but that's really all that I needed starting off. Again, this is a list for just starting off with your podcast. That's all you'll need. So I say start off small and then progress from there, because you want to get comfortable with your equipment. You want to know how to use your equipment. And even if someone's working with you for your podcast and you're not doing the editing or anything, you still want to know how to do these things, because in the event that they're not there, you want to know how things are done. You don't want to leave it to just one person. So again, the organization that I work with is Christian Business Women's Network. Where I bought my domain name for my website is FonsecaOps.com. The industry that I use for my website is Wix.com. If you just want a landing page, you can choose Canva.com. For your bank account for your business, you can go with whatever bank you want to go with. Obviously, just research who would be a better fit for you. You'll need to register your business with whatever state you're in. You need an EIN number. You need a DUNS number if you want to establish credit for your business. You need a domain name, obviously. And then again, if, for the small detail stuff, if you guys want information on that, like what you need on your business website, what a business website should look like, a lot of those things, again, I would reach out to Christian Business Women's Network. Again, it is for women, so you can go on that website and you can look at their membership profiles to see who does what, who can help you with what. Because obviously, there's only so much information you can get from a video. You need to sit there and talk to somebody and ask them about what needs to be done. Because again, even if you're not in the podcasting business, the majority of the resources that I named you can use. Like as far as domain names and websites, and, what you need to establish your business, that doesn't just apply for a podcast. But definitely you guys check out that organization that I named, the Christian Business Women's Network. The student package is $10. The professional package is $25. And one thing that I'll say before I just end the video, and I believe I said it in the Builders episode, do not just sit there on a business and have it function as if it's a side hustle, like it's a second thought. If you have a business, if you have a talent, if you're doing something, even if you haven't established it as a business, why treat it as a side hustle? For me, I know that long term, I don't want to have a podcast and have a 9-to-5 job. Like right now I work for a bank, but my goal is for the podcast to be my main source of income. Even though I do graphic design as well, I don't want to have to work a 9-to-5 where I'm restricted in the time that I can pour into the business, which pours into other individuals. I don't want to have to, when I have business engagements, when I want to do marketing, when I want to do, vendor events, I don't want to have to go to my 9-to-5 and say, hey, I need these days off and depend on them to give me the days off or I'm fired. For me, that doesn't make sense. So that's why I say don't treat your business or your talents like a side hustle. Make your side hustle your business.